Lately, the Chinese Communist Party has been talking a lot about new qualitative productive forces aimed at driving economic transformation and upgrading. However, experts and scholars have pointed out that behind this concept lies a massive deceit like the controversial Made in China 2025 initiative. Xi Jinping introduced the term new quantitative production forces in September last year, gaining traction by March this year. On March 5th, Xi Jinping attended the deliberations of the Jiangsu delegation to the National People's Congress, mentioning the development of new qualitative production forces. The following day, there was a fire at the Jiangsu Provincial Public Security Department building, followed by an explosion at the Zhangjiagang government building the next morning. Official diagrams illustrating new qualitative production forces were shared by Chinese authorities on social media, prompting confusion among netizens. What's 2 A's, 3 B's, 4 C's, and 5 G's, and what do they have to do with advanced technology? It turns out that new qualitative production forces encompass quantum technology, life sciences, artificial intelligence, low-orbit economy, commercial spaceflight, hydrogen energy, and biomanufacturing. The concept of low-orbit economy refers to the recent initiatives in the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau Greater Bay Area and the capital city of Anhui Province, where low-altitude aircraft are used as taxis. In essence, new qualitative productive forces represent innovations previously unseen. It's apparent that the Chinese government aims to leverage high technology and technological revolutions to steer the economy away from real estate bubbles and massive government debt. Yet, under Xi Jinping's direct command and control environment, these plans seem surreal. Politically astute members of the National People's Congress responded swiftly. The party secretary and chairman of liquor behemoth Wu Liangye Group said that the liquor industry embodies characteristics of high technology, high efficiency, and high quality, serving as an important vehicle for developing new qualitative productive forces. Xi'an University of Science and Technology wasted no time establishing a new qualitative production forces research center, with the university president personally leading efforts to secure national research funding for such projects. This demonstrates a cadre with political acumen. As Chinese leaders jump on the bandwagon, other countries are growing alarmed, swiftly tightening their technology exports to China. On March 6th, the U.S. government urged allies such as the Netherlands, Germany, South Korea, and Japan to collectively tighten semiconductor technology exports to China. The Dutch government blocked ASML from providing maintenance services for lithography machines to Chinese customers. Japanese companies are no longer permitted to sell photoresist to China. Chinese chip manufacturers like SMIC have been operating with outdated equipment, producing advanced chips at a loss. Americans have disallowed the sale of old lithography machines by ASML. So far, specific examples of new qualitative productive forces shown by media have been primarily in the military domain. On March 7th, Xi Jinping visited representatives of the People's Liberation Army and the Armed Police Force, instructing them to develop new qualitative production forces, be it new qualitative combat capabilities or strategic capabilities. It is widely understood that strategic capabilities refer to nuclear weapons, biochemical weapons, and the like. However, these are considered old products. How can the CCP transform them into new qualitative ones? CCP reports state that Xi Jinping has long contemplated how to enhance new qualitative strategic capabilities. So, what's the result of his long deliberation? It appears Xi Jinping has decided to use thorium instead of traditional uranium for nuclear bombs. Why? There is abundant thorium in Chinese coal mines, and there's a belief that using thorium will evade detection by Americans. After all, Americans shifted away from thorium in the 1970s, opting for other materials. This is what the CCP is calling new qualitative strategic capabilities. China doesn't currently dare to deploy nuclear weapons. However, it might use them to trigger underwater earthquakes, causing tsunamis. If ordinary uranium isotopes were used, the U.S. would undoubtedly detect them. However, with thorium, if the U.S. cannot gather evidence, the CCP can claim it as a natural disaster. Establishing nuclear power stations on the moon and developing new, unknown bioweapons are examples of what Xi Jinping refers to as new qualitative strategic capabilities. In essence, it's exploring means that Americans wouldn't anticipate, playing dirty in military strategies. New qualitative productive forces are essentially similar to previous efforts by the CCP, such as Made in China 2025. They are attempts to boost the economy under the guise of technological progress. However, previous endeavors have largely been abandoned midway. Consider outsourcing, particularly in the context of Chinese manufacturing. Despite producing high-end luxury bags for Europe, with consistent quality, the significant profits are mainly claimed by the brands responsible for design and sales. Consequently, China only reaps modest earnings from the manufacturing process. In response, some Chinese firms aim to enhance their position by delving into design and sales to increase revenue. Yet, breaking into this domain requires establishing a brand and earning the trust of affluent customers, which is a challenging task. In essence, the label Made in China still carries negative connotations regardless of how well the products are presented. Ultimately, this strategy did not prove successful. Japan had a similar start. In the 1950s and 1960s, products from Japan were synonymous with cheap and low quality. However, over decades of persistent effort, the Japanese transformed Made in Japan into a brand known for high quality and durability, as exemplified by Toyota cars. The difference is, the Japanese are renowned for their diligence, entirely different from the Chinese under the communist regime. Under the influence of party culture, many Chinese either focus solely on monetary gains or indulge in leisure, or they engage in Machiavellian tactics, entirely oblivious to the spirit of craftsmanship. Hence, the quality of Chinese products always seems to fall a bit short. Changing this requires not just time and effort, but primarily a thorough recognition of the habits fostered under the Chinese Communist Party's rule. New materials constitute a crucial aspect of China's development of new qualitative productive forces. However, for China, which lags behind in basic scientific research, this path is fraught with challenges. China faces significant disparities with the US, Japan, and Europe in basic research areas like material purity and processing precision. For instance, in specialty steel, China trails far behind Japan and Germany. China is only just catching up to Japan's high-precision machine tool level of 30 years ago. A decade ago, under China's industrial upgrade, it was found that almost no sector could compete with the US, Japan, or Europe on equal footing. In the field of new materials, China may only have a few sectors capable of making breakthroughs. Even with substantial investments in basic technical research, misappropriated funds drain away technological development. The chip project is a prime example. Some chip companies, after receiving subsidies, embarked on land grabs, factory construction, and capital operations, only to quietly close down in the end, with few research achievements to show for. The Chinese government's massive subsidies to the electric vehicle industry have nurtured companies like BYD, but controversies persist regarding returns on investment. BYD's net profit of 30 billion RMB in 2022 sounds impressive. However, global automotive giant Toyota's profit in 2022 was 157 billion RMB, dwarfing the combined profits of all Chinese car companies. Given these figures, the Chinese government's massive subsidies to the electric vehicle industry are far from efficient. Furthermore, European and American car makers are planning to introduce hydrogen-powered vehicles. Compared to electric cars, hydrogen-powered vehicles offer longer range and shorter refueling times. If China's lead in the new energy vehicle sector is replaced by hydrogen-powered cars, the subsidies previously invested might amount to nothing. Artificial intelligence is considered a crucial engine for the development of new qualitative productive forces, but China's strict censorship system restricts the scope and diversity of information accessible to AI models. The inefficiency and insincerity of training data could mislead AI models, diminishing their recognition and decision-making capabilities. If Chinese companies can only use half-baked AI technology, the effectiveness of productivity improvement will be greatly diminished. As for commercial spaceflight, with Russia's decline in this sector, China and India have begun competing in low-end fields like satellite launches. Given the limited market size, this competition may lead to price wars and profit decline, resulting in a lose-lose situation for both countries. Frontier technology fields like quantum technology and life sciences sound promising, but require substantial investment and talent reserves. Short-term significant achievements are unlikely. Currently, China stands at a crossroads of economic transformation. It can no longer rely on real estate to drive economic growth. compounded by an aging population, labor shortages, declining exports, and Chinese energy vehicles being rejected in overseas markets, China's economy is sinking into deflation. The expected economic boost from the new energy sector hasn't materialized yet. At least for now, it cannot replace the traditional real estate industry in contributing to the Chinese economy. To truly achieve economic transformation and industrial upgrading, the proportion of productive service industries in GDP must be increased. In the EU, this proportion exceeds 40%. In the US, it exceeds 50%, while China is still below 20%. Productive service industries include high-end equipment operation systems, application software, chip design, etc., reportedly accounting for 55% of the equipment's value. However, this industry requires creativity and intellectual freedom, which are incompatible with the Chinese system. Therefore, Xi Jinping has been suppressing it. In recent years, platforms like Alibaba have suffered heavy blows, and programmers have become mere cogs in a factory. How can innovation flourish? Resource allocation heavily favors the privileged, resulting in glaring social inequality and a persistent shortfall in domestic demand. Over the years, economic growth has relied mainly on foreign markets to sustain the communist regime. Today, the US, Japan, and Europe are all closing their doors to China's new energy products and gearing up for hydrogen. China's new energy sector is being denied any opportunity. Without fundamental systemic reforms, optimization of allocation mechanisms, and improvement of social security, the added capacity brought about by new qualitative production forces will ultimately have nowhere to go. Instead of solving problems, it may exacerbate debt burdens, pushing the Chinese economy even further into precarious territory. Davy Jun Huang, an economist based in the United States, says that according to Western economic and political standards, China's current economic development and governance system have fallen into a quagmire. China's economic growth shows signs of fatigue, financial risks are soaring, local government debt remains high, the private economy is suppressed, rule of law is lacking, and freedom of speech is severely restricted. The governance system dominated by the party has revealed its true colors. Against this backdrop, the Chinese authorities have introduced the concept of new qualitative productive forces, clearly aiming to shift focus and establish a new set of criteria for evaluating China's economic development, thereby sidestepping or downplaying the severity of existing economic and social issues. This is not only to vindicate China's economic model on the international stage, but also to construct a new economic theory and value system, intending to weaken the influence of Western economics and political science. Chinese authorities have previously introduced concepts such as Chinese-style modernization and comprehensive democracy, aiming to establish a theoretical system distinct from universal values espoused by the West. These attempts have sparked widespread discussion in academia, both domestically and abroad. According to Feng Chongyi, a Chinese scholar based in Australia, since the CCP seized power in 1949, they have continuously created and promoted various new slogans, such as surpassing Britain and catching up with America, high yields per unit area, and four modernizations. However, none of these goals have been realized. Nevertheless, the CCP continues to introduce new concepts in an attempt to deceive the public. Feng Chongyi further pointed out that the creation and dissemination of new terms have become an important part of the CCP's political culture. Officials keep busy by frequently changing slogans, and this process also reveals political loyalty. More insidiously, these new terms are often used to confuse the public. For example, the term liberation is used by the CCP to describe the founding of the People's Republic of China in 1949. However, since then, farmers have lost their land, workers have lost the right to strike, intellectuals have become dissidents, and capitalists have been deprived of their property. Is this liberation or enslavement? Feng Chongyi also mentioned that the CCP is at a loss when faced with the unemployment problem defined by Western economics. Instead, they beautify it as being laid off, optimization, slow employment, or flexible employment. Thus, the issue of unemployment is absent from official discourse. Feng Chongyi concluded by pointing out that the CCP distorts language and uses propaganda to damage the Chinese language. He said that after the CCP falls, the Chinese language needs to be reconstructed and cleaned up. The latest Chinese government work report suggests that this new economic push is even more important than people's livelihoods. Industry insiders point out that this shift reflects a cruel reality. Under the rule of the CCP, the importance of technological progress far outweighs the well-being of ordinary people. This is not just a strategic choice, but also reflects the ideological and interest-driven governance logic of the Communist Party. Some experts argue that the CCP has historically depended on copying and stealing Western technology, which helped build China's new energy and manufacturing sectors. But as the US imposes technology sanctions, pushing China to innovate independently, the challenges have grown. The CCP, known for its weak innovation, is now pressuring scientists and researchers to step up. This raises another question. Does China's economy stop functioning without technological innovation? Obviously not. In fact, China's economy can completely solve structural problems such as imbalanced income distribution and boost domestic demand without the so-called qualitative production forces. However, the CCP turns a blind eye to this and instead urgently desires technological breakthroughs. What does this expose? Some believe that the CCP fears falling behind the United States in the field of technology and ultimately losing the opportunity to compete with the United States. The CCP's high-profile promotion of new qualitative productive forces and technological development is essentially to create investment opportunities and obtain profits. When ordinary people buy high-tech products such as AI phones, CCP enterprises reap huge profits, and government tax revenue increases accordingly. However, the income level of ordinary people has not improved significantly. The benefits to the people are far less than those to the CCP enterprises and the system itself. Official data shows that China's current economic growth rate is only about 5%. However, the actual growth rate may be as low as 1 to 2%, or even negative. Before Xi Jinping came to power, China's economy needed to maintain a growth rate of 8% to ensure social welfare and employment. Now, with growth rates far from meeting those standards, it implies that unemployment is continuously rising. The introduction of new terms during the two sessions, such as new qualitative production forces, seems optimistic and upbeat. How could there be such a situation? It seems like smearing and rumor-mongering. The Chinese government is increasingly intervening in the economy and research, limiting business freedom and investment. National security concerns affect decisions and operations. More worrying are the severe restrictions on freedom of speech and thought, with dissenting voices facing censorship and punishment. This stifles the innovation ecosystem. Genuine innovation often stems from the free exchange of ideas, a point that the CCP cannot tolerate. They would rather sacrifice the long-term interests of the country to suppress freedom of speech and thought in order to ensure short-term political stability. Some observers think the key to solving this issue might not be finding room for innovation under the current system, but rather in whether the system itself can undergo major changes for the betterment of the nation and its people.